Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video. Today's video is actually, I made this card a long time ago, y'all. This is the Compassion Poppies stamp and die set from Tonic. This was actually part of a blog hop at the beginning of the month. I edited the video and I just never voiced it over because my allergies have been so out of control. But I didn't want to not do it at all because I really love the way that the card came out. And I thought it would be helpful for you guys to learn combining mediums. We've done this in the past before, but this also includes just some perspective and things like that. Before we get too much further along, just get some housekeeping things out of the way. This stamp and die set is only sold as a set. It is currently on sale. Normally it's $39.99. Right now it's on sale for $34.99. And the set includes 18 stamps and 17 dies. So it's actually a really, really good deal, especially when you throw all those dies in there. But anywho, let's get on with the card. So when I looked at this and I saw the smaller poppies, like the field of them, and then like the larger ones, I knew that I could play around a little bit with perspective. So the first thing I'm doing is using the smaller poppies to stamp down at the bottom. Now you'll notice I'm leaving a little bit of a gap. It's probably about 1/4 of an inch just because I wanted them to be a little bit taller. And then I'm just going to fill in those lines with a alcohol safe pen. For me, I know you guys have asked before, these are EK Success journaling pens. They are discontinued. I happen to have a couple of packs that I had bought, so I will use them until I cannot use them anymore. And then I will switch back to my old standby, which was Microns and Copic multi-liners. So if you're looking to buy something, either one of those is a totally suitable replacement for those journaling pens. Gonna do a little bit of ink blending in the background, not a ton, just enough to give my piece some color. This is Shabby Shutters, and I'm just adding this to the bottom. I'm not really going over the flowers per se, because I'm gonna color them red, and red and green are complementary colors, so they make brown, and I don't want brown poppies. So I'm going to clean up that green to make sure it doesn't contaminate any part of my sky. And then for the sky portion of it, I'm going to use, why can't I think of the color? Salty Ocean? Yeah, because I use it on every card. And why the name would elude me, I have no idea. So I am going to bring this down from the top. I am going to leave some white space and kind of an irregular pattern to give the illusion of clouds. But this is also going to make sure that I have a barrier between the blue and the red poppies as well. So keeping my concentration of ink darker at the top, lighter, and letting it kind of fade into that white. Like I said, that illusion of clouds, you can do this in any pattern that you want. Or if you wanted to take the time to mask the poppies, you certainly could do that and take your color all the way down. Or you could take the blue over the poppies and you would just have a cooler color red. Whichever. So for the coloring, be honest with you, I used 4 colors. Probably didn't need to, but old habits die hard. I am going to start by coloring in a couple of flowers at a time, and then I'm going to break my own rule. Rules are meant to be broken, people. Normally I go lightest to darkest, and then darkest back to lightest. But because this area is so small, I don't want to oversaturate my flowers and have red bleeding out into my white clouds. So I'm going to start with, once it's colored in my lightest color, because they blend together when they're wet. So I'd like to have I don't want to start with a dry base. So put down the lightest color, and then I'm going to go in with the darkest, and then work my way back out to the lightest, adding shadows pretty much where the petals meet and where one lays on top of the other. But I am using just a very little bit. You don't need a ton of darkness to create dimension. So if you feel like it's getting too dark, then maybe just use your midtones and your lightest color. But I'm going to color them all the same way. I'm going to spare you the coloring of each individual poppy. We're just going to kind of skip toward the end, and then I'll show the process again, just so you can see it twice. I know that with the smaller flowers, it's a little bit more difficult to see, but I didn't think you needed to see all 25 or 30 of them, whatever's on that piece of paper. And then this is pretty much all I'm going to do to my background piece. And then you'll see when we get to the larger poppies that when we start, they're kind of partially colored. here's what happened there. So, I was kind of playing around with how I wanted to do the coloring, and I wasn't really sure. And surprise, surprise, I don't even know what drove him to even ask. Nathan and I were home one night. Eric was working, and he was like, "Can we color?" What? Can we? Yes, we can color. Of course we can color. We can color anytime you want to color. So we ended up sitting in the family room and watching a movie while we both colored. Well, I was, like I said, in my head trying to figure out how I wanted to color my poppies, so I just went ahead and stamped them, and then figured, well, I would just redo it on the camera. So here's where, like I said, they're partially colored. Because I didn't get through very many of them, I knew that I could show it without having to recolor those other 3. So that's what I'm doing. So again, I laid down a base of this isn't my lightest color. I think I wanted hair darker. That might have been R20, and then I moved on to an R32. And you'll see there's a little bit of yellow in the center. Again, I don't want to start with a dry base because I want them to mix really well. So I'm going to completely color my flower with my lightest color. And this time I am going to go lightest to darkest and darkest to lightest because my flower is big enough to contain that much ink. So just doing what I normally do. You can see the way that they're illustrated up at the outer edges. There's sometimes lines drawn in, or the way that the petal is drawn is curved or rounded. So I am going to add some shading there to kind of accent those and then just give the flower a little bit more movement. But other than that, like I said, lightest to darkest, darkest to lightest. The ones on the right, the ones that were already colored, have marker, the lightest color is the base, and then colored pencil. My attempt in doing this on camera is to show you the combination of the two. So you can do just colored pencil. You can do a combination of a marker base, just one color with colored pencil over top, or you can do what I'm doing here. And you'll be able to see the difference in how rich the color is with the shading from the marker and then the additional shading from the colored pencil. This process does take a little bit longer, but not, I wouldn't even say, it doesn't take, I don't know, maybe it's because I color all the time. I didn't feel like it took an exorbitant amount of time, but it is why, he finished his whole card and I got 3 flowers colored because we just color a little bit differently, and actually it was really wonderful to sit there and kind of chat with him about colors and watch our little movie together and spend time. And when we go to bed at night, we always talk about the best part of his day, the worst part of his day, and what we're most grateful for. And that night, the best part of his day was us coloring together and watching a movie, which just totally made, then that was the best part of my day, him saying that, because he doesn't always want to spend the time with me. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, anyway, my allergies, why I have not been doing voiceovers. So today is the first day of spring. Spring has arose, thank you, Lord. And it has been very nice out, but my allergies have been very, very crazy. To the point where sneezing fits and nonstop nose running and all of that jazz. So I just really didn't even have a day where I could do a voiceover. So I apologize that the channel's been a little bit, I got 3 or 4 videos that are backlogged, because I just have not, I haven't had a voice to voice them over. Well, that's not true. It just means I had a whole lot of snot as well. So now the petal portion of the flower is done. And then I'm just going to go in. I'm going to take my lightest color and kind of spread that out into the petals a little bit so they blend. And then I'm just going to add my regular yellow combination to the center of the flower. And you can see the difference between what's been colored with marker and what has that extra colored pencil layer. So I am going to add colored pencils to this, but I wanted you to see what it looked like with just markers. So the way that I do my colored pencils, my hand's actually a little further down than it should be, I'll be honest with you. If you find that you are pushing very hard with your colored pencils, back your hand up the pencil. It will not allow you to put down as much pressure. I know I've told you this before in previous videos, but I used to have the problem with colored pencils where I couldn't even get through a flower without my hand starting to hurt. And it's because I was gripping the pencil so tightly and applying so much pressure that it made it just really uncomfortable to color with colored pencils. But backing your hand up doesn't allow you to put down as much pressure and forces you to have a lighter hand, which is ultimately really what you want. So I started with my darkest color and went directly into the parts that I want to be the darkest. And then I'm just moving through to the lighter colors. There is a softer blending with colored pencils than there is with markers. And I think the two mediums work together really, really well. I typically gravitate towards markers, but that doesn't mean that colored pencils don't have a place. And especially if you like to experiment with having variegated colors, or multiple color variations in your objects, or in this case, flower. Colored pencils is a great way to achieve that multi-color look, because you can add a color over top of your marker that completely changes that color or changes the tone of that color. Like in this case, the reds that I chose for the markers were a bluer based red, so it was a much more, I mean, it's a blue red, I don't know how else to describe it, whereas adding the colored pencils over top, because I chose more of like tomato reds, so reds that had more yellow in it, so they were more on the orange side, completely changes the way that that flower looks and the temperature of it. And it's just such a good way to kind of play with colors. And you'll be able to see the difference in the flower once we're done with it. And just like with my markers, the midtones are the majority of my image. So you're just going to have a small portion that is shadows, a small portion that is highlights, and the majority of it will be those two mid-tone colors if you are like me and you use 4 colors. If you use 3 colors, then you're going to have a highlight color, a mid-tone, and a shadow color, but still the majority of your image should be that mid-tone color. And right now we're working on just the second mid-tone color. So you can see that the color is much richer than just the ones that have been colored with just colored pencil, like the ones to the right. The color in this particular flower is much richer, but the thing that I don't like about colored pencils, and it's nobody's fault, it just is the nature of the beast. The thing I don't like about colored pencils is that they're wax based. So you better be sure you're sure you don't want to add any other marker to it before you start putting your colored pencil on top of it, because it will resist the ink. They're wax based, it's made to repel it. And you'll see, did I put glitter on this? I would be surprised if I didn't, but I can't remember because I don't actually have this card anymore. This card was for my mom's birthday. This was my mama's birthday card. And then here I'm showing you just with the colored pencils, like the lightest marker base, no shading with the marker, just the colored pencils, just like I did with the ones on the right. So you can just kind of see how that process went, and the difference between them. But since this was my mom's birthday card, I don't have it sitting here anymore. We're going to find out together in just a few minutes whether or not I added glitter to it or not, because I honestly cannot remember. Because my mom's birthday, when was my mom's birthday is February 23rd, and we celebrated it on the 28th, and I am doing this voiceover on March 20th. So that will just tell you how long my allergies have been a mess. And I'm allergic to grasses, so this summer should be fun if that's any indication. I am not looking forward to that. But anywho, so you can see the difference in the flowers. And I am going to do this other smaller flower with the combination of the... am I going to do just pencils? I thought I did one more with the markers and the pencils. I can't remember. One of the things that I really do like about the combination of the stamps and dies in this particular set is, even though like there's multiple stamps and they're all separated, so you can decide which ones you want to stamp, but then there's also multiple dies that match those. So you can do something like I did here, where you create like a field of very large poppies, but then you can cut them out individually with the dies, which is what I ended up doing. And so I could gather them the way that I wanted to. So I'm a big fan of that. But otherwise, like, as far as life has been going, Peanut and I did have another night where we colored, which was really fun. And I actually received a coloring book from a company that asked me if I would review it. And I was a big fan, so I actually think I'm going to do a video on it so you guys could see it. But yeah, there was one night where he got to pick out a page out of the coloring book, and I colored a different page out of the coloring book, which was super kind of fun. I've never really found an adult coloring book that I liked, for real. Just because they're all like super involved and intricate, and like the mandalas, and I'm like, I have no interest in coloring those little teeny tiny pieces. And I know for some people it's very meditative, but for other people like myself, it's just very overwhelming. Like, I don't want to have to color each individual thing. So this particular coloring book had much bigger pictures, which I really liked, and I've been taking it to work with me, so like in my downtime I can color, and I'm a fan, surprisingly. So I probably will share that with you guys here in the next, well, as long as my allergies hold up, I'll edit the video and try to get a voiceover in. But anyway, so we've been doing that, and then I forced him to watch Beauty and the Beast again. Oh, see, I knew I did another flower with the markers. See, I'm not completely losing my mind. I forced him to watch Beauty and the Beast with me again, because I always let him pick the movies, and I've been watching a lot of movies about puppies. Okay, let's talk about puppy movies. So this didn't happen to me. This happened to Eric. So when I come home in the morning, Nathan gets dropped off to Eric in the morning before I get out of work. Y'all know I work night shift. And so when I get home, typically, you know, they're already up on the couch watching TV, doing their thing. So I usually check in with Peanut, see how his night was, and then give everybody a kiss goodnight, and I go to bed. Because then I get up at 2, because I have to get Peanut from school at 3. So this particular morning I came home, they were already watching a movie, which I thought was strange, and it turned out that the movie was Benji. The long story short, apparently there's some sort of scene where, did I tell you guys this story? I feel like I told this story already. Did I tell you this story? Well, you're going to hear it again. If I didn't, I'm sorry. I'll give you the abbreviated version just in case. But anywho, so Benji leads the kids get kidnapped. Benji leads the mother and the police to the guys who are getting kidnapped. One of the people who's doing the kidnapping, Benji jumps on him, and then the other guy hits him with a stick. And Eric's like, all of a sudden, I just hear like this sob, this wailing sob from the couch. And he's like, I look over, and he is like in tears, pulls the cover up over his head, just sobbing, crying. And like Eric goes over to check on him, and he's like, I don't want to watch this movie anymore. And so Eric's like, just give it a minute, like Benji's gonna be okay, the whole deal. And obviously Benji was okay, and then Nathan did recover from it. But I was actually really surprised, because he doesn't usually connect to movies that way. I just think it's because it was a dog. People, he's like, whatever, but dogs apparently get him very emotional, which I can relate to, honestly. But anywho, so we've been watching some movies lately, and I usually let him pick the movie. So I made him watch Beauty and the Beast with me the other day, because it's one of my favorite Disney movies, and it might be my favorite Disney movie, with Lion King as a close second. But I really do like The Princess and the Frog as well. So I don't know. I like Disney movies. I know I'm grown. I don't really care. Don't judge me. Here's what I was talking about with the individual dies, how you can just decide which ones that you want to cut out, and I really, really love that. So I am going to cut out these 3 that I've colored, the one on the end there. I'm going to let go. I'm going to sacrifice to the trash can. So now that they're all cut out, I am going to adhere some of them down flat, but the largest one I'm going to do a combination of. But as I'm doing this, I realize that I have not stamped my sentiment yet. So even though I get the foam on my piece, I can't actually adhere it down until I stamp my sentiment because it would get in the way. So I'm using it for placement for the other 2. And you can see here again how you have the ones further in the back and these ones closer up, and it gives you that scene perspective, which I super love. So fun, right up my alley. I just think I don't know, I just think cards like this are really fun where you can kind of see a scene in there. And then, like I said, I'm gonna put that right on top, and I'm gonna put foam on the back of the flowers, and I will eventually put glue on just the stems, so it's like a hybrid where it sticks up on top but is adhered flat at the bottom. But I can't do it until I stamp my sentiment. But anywho, so I made him watch Beauty and the Beast, and then I was singing along in the songs, and he looked at me like a crazy person, and I'm fine with it, honestly, because I don't know how you watch a Disney movie and don't sing along with the songs. I mean, especially one from your childhood, right? Okay. So, but other than that, I mean, we've just been doing the same thing, doing some furniture business, working. The yard is dried out now after the little mud monsters, so I'm super happy about that. I know it's going to start raining here soon because it's spring today, like I said, first official day of spring, but I'm just going to be glad we're heading into warmer weather and try not to think about all the mud we're going to have to clean off the paws. So once I get this stamped, it says warm birthday wishes, because again, for my mama. Just going to put that glue on to the bottom of the stems and then adhere that down so it's all kind of lined up. And it won't be an issue with the hybrid combination of them. I love that big, bold poppy right in the front there. That one's one of my favorites. It's just so pretty. Oh, see, I did put glitter on it. Here's my warning with the glitter. Because you have done the wax colored pencil and it's made to repel things, the glitter doesn't dry immediately like it does if you're just putting it over marker. It will dry, but you have to let it sit and not touch it for a little bit. I felt like my sentiment was just kind of off floating there by itself, and I needed something to kind of hook it in to the rest of the picture. So I did end up putting down some clear sequins. Again, I don't even know if these are trendy anymore, but I've never really been trendy, so I'm cool with it. And I already own them, and I am cheap. So, clear sequins it was. So I'm going to put those down. And I just felt like it kind of led the eye into the flowers, and it didn't just seem like it was floating out there all by itself. I probably could have stacked the sentiment, but that seemed like more work than I was really willing to put in. Even though it's for my mom and I would do anything for her, I don't think she really cared if my sentiment was stacked or not. So once those are down, then that's it. That's pretty much the entire card. Like I said, this stamp and die bundle is on sale. So I would encourage you to go check that out if you're interested. Otherwise, thank you guys so much for joining me, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.